Episode 90, The Ghost of Toyotomi Hideyoshi and the Spirits of Osaka Castle. Welcome to Supernatural Japan, the podcast where we talk about the mysterious and sometimes darker history of Japan. This is the first recorded episode of 2026, and I want to give a big hello to all of you excellent listeners. I've just returned from Osaka, Japan, and I am ready to share so many fantastic tales, legends, urban legends, and more with all of you in 2026. I'm your host, Kevin O'Shea, and today we are going to talk about one of Japan's most powerful men. Someone who unified Japan and, hundreds of years later, still makes his presence known. Osaka Castle stands at the heart of one of Japan's largest and most modern cities, surrounded by office towers, train lines, and busy streets. During the day, the castle park feels open and welcoming, filled with joggers, families, and tourists moving casually across ground that was once soaked in blood and fire. At night, however, when the crowds thin and the lights reflect across the moats, Osaka Castle feels very different. For centuries, people have believed that this place has never truly been at rest. According to legend, the spirit of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the man who unified Japan and made Osaka his seat of power, still lingers within the castle grounds, bound to the site where his ambition reached its peak and where his legacy was violently erased. Toyotomi Hideyoshi was born in 1537, during the Sengoku period, a time when Japan was divided among rival warlords and social status was usually fixed at birth. Hideyoshi came from one of the lowest social classes, born the son of a peasant foot soldier in Owari province. In an era where lineage defined opportunity, this should have marked the limits of his life. Instead, Hideyoshi rose through a combination of intelligence, charisma, and relentless ambition. He possessed a sharp understanding of people and power, skills that were often more valuable than brute strength in the shifting political landscape of the Sengoku era. These traits eventually brought him into the service of Oda Nobunaga, one of the most formidable warlords of the time. And Hideyoshi began as a minor retainer, remembered in popular stories as Nobunaga's sandal bearer, but he quickly proved himself indispensable. As Nobunaga expanded his territory, Hideyoshi took on increasingly important roles, managing logistics, diplomacy, and military strategy. He became known for solving problems through negotiation and deception as often as through force, persuading enemy commanders to surrender or defect when prolonged fighting would be costly. One of his earliest major achievements occurred during the siege of Inabayama Castle in 1567, where his actions helped secure a crucial victory. And over the following years, Hideyoshi fought in campaigns against powerful clans such as the Azai and Asakura, as well as against militant religious groups like the Iko-Ika, who controlled heavily fortified temple complexes. Through these battles, Hideyoshi's reputation grew, and his rise from commoner to daimyo became one of the most extraordinary social ascents in Japanese history. In 1582, Oda Nobunaga was betrayed by Akechi Mitsuhide and forced to commit suicide at Honjoji Temple in Kyoto. The event created a sudden power vacuum, and many of Nobunaga's former generals hesitated, unsure how to respond. Hideyoshi acted immediately. He made peace with his enemies, marched his army at remarkable speed, and confronted Mitsuhide at the Battle of Yamazaki near Kyoto. And actually, I was at this site just a little while ago during my winter holiday. And I was there. I was shown there by a friend of the podcast, Philip Jackson. And we'll be talking a little bit about that more in the next episode of the podcast. Now, Mitsuhide's defeat and death secured Hideyoshi's position as Nobunaga's avenger and effectively placed him at the top of Japan's political hierarchy. And from this moment on, Hideyoshi's rise was unstoppable. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, make sure to follow and rate the show. It helps a lot. By the late 1580s, Toyotomi Hideyoshi had unified Japan. Although his birth prevented him from becoming shogun, he ruled through imperial titles as Kampaku and later Taiko, exercising absolute authority. In 1583, he began the construction of Osaka Castle. The site was chosen for both its strategic importance and its symbolic power, as Osaka was already a major commercial center. The castle was designed to overwhelm the senses, with massive stone walls, wide moats, and a towering keep decorated with gold. Osaka Castle was not simply a residence or a fortress. It was a declaration that the Toyotomi rule was permanent. Hideyoshi ruled from Osaka until his death in 1598, deeply concerned about whether his young son, Hideyori, could maintain his dynasty that he had built. After Hideyoshi's death, political power gradually shifted to Tokugawa Ieyasu. Tensions between the Tokugawa and Toyotomi factions eventually erupted into the winter and summer sieges of Osaka in 1614 and 1615. Osaka Castle was surrounded, bombarded, and set ablaze. The fighting was among some of the bloodiest of the Sengoku period's final years. And when defeat became inevitable, Hideyoshi's son, Hideyori, and his mother, Yorogimi, committed suicide within the castle grounds. And with their deaths, the Toyotomi clan came to an end, and Osaka Castle was largely destroyed. In Japanese folklore, it is believed that powerful emotions and unfulfilled attachments can bind a spirit to a place. Toyotomi Hideyoshi had invested his entire life in Osaka, and the destruction of his dynasty created the kind of unresolved ending that often gives rise to ghost stories. According to local legend, Hideyoshi's spirit still haunts Osaka Castle and the surrounding park. Rather than appearing as a violent or vengeful ghost, he is usually described as a silent, dignified presence, often seen wearing court robes or armor, watching over the grounds he once ruled. And some of the most persistent stories are connected to Osaka Castle Park itself, particularly near the inner moats and stone walls, where night security guards and maintenance workers have occasionally reported the sound of footsteps on gravel paths when no one is present, as well as the sensation of being watched while walking alone near the castle after dark. There is also long-standing stories of a shadowy figure seen near the Hokoku Shrine area within the park, a shrine dedicated to Hideyoshi himself. Witnesses describe the figure as standing still beneath the trees or near the paths, only to vanish when approached. These sightings are often dismissed as tricks of light, but their consistency over time has helped sustain the legend. Other accounts claim that Hideyoshi's presence is felt most strongly during storms or periods of major renovation. And during times when construction equipment disturbs the ground and when scaffolding surrounds the keep, some visitors report an unusual heaviness in the air or an unexplained sense of unease, as if the land itself is reacting to being altered. In these stories, Hideyoshi is not portrayed as an onryo, which is a violent, angry ghost driven by rage, but as a spirit bound by pride and regret, unable to leave the place where his power was absolute and his downfall was inevitable. The Osaka Castle that stands today is a modern reconstruction, built with concrete and steel. Yet, in Japanese belief, the spiritual memory of a place does not depend on original materials. What matters is the land itself and the events that unfolded upon it. Thousands died here during the siege. Dreams of dynasty and permanence were shattered here. It is this accumulated weight of history that many believe allows spirits like Hideyoshi's and others to linger. Whether Toyotomi Hideyoshi truly walks the grounds of Osaka Castle Park or exists only in legend, his ghost reflects something deeply human. It is the idea that ambition on such a massive scale does not fade quietly, and that places shaped by that ambition remember long after the people are gone. For many in Osaka, Hideyoshi remains more than a historical figure. He is still the lord of the castle, watching over the city he helped shape, unable or unwilling to leave behind the world he built. Thank you for listening to Supernatural Japan. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please follow the podcast and leave a rating and review. If you leave a lovely review, I'm going to read it right here on the podcast. Absolutely. Now, it's 2026 and I'm back in the Supernatural studios here in Xi'an, China. I spent the winter holiday in Osaka, Japan, visiting my in-laws and enjoying lots of great family time. I picked up some fantastic books by Lafcadio Hearn about Japanese kaidan, which are ghost stories, of course, and I got to visit some authentic paranormal and supernatural sites in Kyoto Prefecture with friend of the show and my friend Philip Jackson. And we also recorded an episode while hiking on Otokoyama, and you can expect that later on in the month. And at the end of that hike, Philip took me to a watchtower, a sightseeing platform that oversaw the entire area, or part of the area, where that famed Battle of Yamazaki happened. It was really cool. So coming up in the next episode, you'll hear my live on the mountainside spooky interview with Philip Jackson. Now, I also had a chance to visit Osaka. What I should say is if you ever have a chance to visit Osaka, I highly recommend you do. Please visit Osaka Castle and Osaka Castle Park. The Osaka Castle Park has been one of my go-to spots for cherry blossom parties, and family picnics. And, I've been to festivals there in the park. I've jogged in the park. Back in 2015, I even did the Great Osaka Santa Run in the park with a few coworkers, and nothing beats seeing several thousand Santas hanging around a massive Japanese castle. The ghost of Toyotomi Hideyoshi is not the only ghost said to be haunting the castle grounds. Visitors for years have shared many other tales of spooky things happening in Osaka Castle Park after dark. Now, I personally haven't not experienced anything there myself, but I've only ever been there in the daytime, so I definitely need to get there sometime at night and check it out. And I think an episode might be dedicated to all those specters in the future as well. Definitely a lot for another episode. Well, to see photos of Osaka Castle, Osaka Castle Park, and pictures of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, please follow the podcast on Instagram at Supernatural Japan. You can find lots of cool things on that feed as well. Check out our Facebook group for photos and videos. And of course, myself, Kevin O'Shea, I am on Blue Sky and X at Mad for Maple, where I post lots of cool photos of Japan and what it's like to be an expat living here in Asia. Now, you guys can shoot me an email anytime you like at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com with ideas, stories, or your own weird and spooky experiences in Japan. I'd love to hear from you. I recently put out a call on social media over the winter holiday asking for your strange and supernatural stories from Japan, and I've already heard back from several of you folks with some great tales. And I'd love to hear from more of you about any odd encounters you've had in Japan. So please reach out to me through email at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com or on any kind of social media. I'll get back to you, and I would love to hear more. Now, you can support the show on Buy Me a Coffee with a one-time donation, or you can become a member. Links are in the show notes. And that's it, everyone. Until next time, stay curious and keep your eyes open in the shadows.